Throughout this episode, you've talked a number of times about how you've been a fear confronter and have embraced discomfort and stepped out of your comfort zone. You have now become what I call a brand reinventor because anyone who steps out of the military, it's not a very easy transition. And the easy transition for you to have made, as you said, would have been to go fly for American or United. Can you give some tips to the audience that if they are trying to look at a reinvention of themselves, what were some of the things that worked for you and what were some of the unexpected things that you've had to go through?
Yeah, so I think just realizing that there's probably more options than you thought is a big first step because I've talked to a lot of my peers and they still are like, I only know how to fly airplanes. The only thing I can go do after I finish my military time is to fly for the airlines. And I'm like, you have so many more skills that translate to so many other things that you don't even realize. So, kind of recognizing that and asking yourself what you really are passionate about, what gets you excited. And that might make you recognize some other opportunities, which is how speaking came into mind for me. I just realized how much I loved positively impacting other people and needed to find a way to do that. But as I was approaching my time on active duty ending, my view on networking and mentors and leveraging the people that are willing to help you out has completely changed. When I was early on the Thunderbirds, there were some people that were more senior on the team who were just like the best networkers at show sites. They would end up getting us like the craziest experiences, cool stuff all the time. And I'm just like, you're kind of like, I just don't love doing that. It feels kind of like skeezy, but they were so successful at it. And now I've come to realize that in the civilian space, using your network is how everything gets done. And there's so many ways to do it with actually caring about that person and that relationship and doing it authentically and genuinely that isn't like where you're just using them and going on to the next thing. And it doesn't give those like used car salesman vibes. And so kind of recognizing what your goal is and tapping into your network. I think when you verbalize that you have this thing you want to go do, all these people that you never even thought of or imagined will show up for you. And it's been one of the biggest surprises, I think, for me, the number of people who reached out on LinkedIn or on Instagram or on email who I'd never met or had met briefly at an air show where we had this really quick little interaction, probably while I was on the way to try to use the bathroom. And they're like, hey, I happen to see that you're starting a speaking business and I happen to work for this company and we have this event coming up and we'd love to support you. And just the amount of people that showed up for me was awesome. And I think that's true for most people, but it can feel kind of weird to ask for what you want. So I really encourage people to be willing to put themselves out there and do that. And then I intentionally looked at where I had gaps in skills and knowledge and how I could fill those. So I knew I was going into an industry that I was just learning about. I knew I had done a ton of on camera interviews while I was with the team. I'd done school visits on stage, but I was not a 45-minute big stage keynote speaker. I just didn't have that experience. And I'm a little bit introverted and shy. And I know you can't tell right now, but that's kind of terrifying for me to go do those big speeches. But I knew there were a lot of resources out there. So I started to look into speaking schools. I started to look into how much I would need to invest into it. And I really put intentional effort into becoming as good at it as I could. And the rest of it is really just recognizing that it's okay to start something even when you don't feel ready, just knowing that you're going to figure it out as you go. I think so many people hold themselves back and they're like, now's not the time because I don't quite have a full grasp on this. I don't have that skill yet. This is going on in my life. If you're waiting until you feel like, oh, heck yeah, I'm totally ready for this, you're going to wait for a very long time, for a lot of people, forever. And if you're not, when you eventually get there, you're probably thinking small. You're not playing big enough at that point because the experience that you're going after is not big enough to really grow you as much as it potentially could. So I really encourage people to be okay going after those things where there's a little bit of uncertainty and knowing that you're going to learn and you're going to evolve and you're going to grow throughout the process.